When did you last have a real conversation with your neighbor? Not a nod from the driveway, not a wave from behind a windshield, an actual conversation standing still where you learned something real about the person living 30 feet from your bedroom wall. For most Americans, that memory is either very old or very faint. And here is the strange part. That disconnection was not inevitable. It was not human nature. It was not the internet or busy schedules. It was architecture. Specifically, the removal of one feature from the front of American homes, the front porch. But here is what nobody is telling you. The porch did not fade away. It was deliberately removed by specific people for specific financial reasons. And when it disappeared, it did not just take community with it. It took something from the structure of your home that your house is still paying for today. In this video, we answer 3 questions most people have never thought to connect. Why did the American porch disappear so fast? Who made that decision and why? And what did it truly cost American neighborhoods in ways far deeper than anyone has explained? By the end, you will see something about modern American life that most people live inside every day without ever seeing clearly. To understand what was lost, you have to understand what the porch actually was. Not decoration. A complete system. Picture a summer evening in 1920. A family on a wide covered porch, chairs facing the street. A neighbor slows her walk and calls out from the edge of the yard. No invitation needed, no appointment, just the natural gravity of people visible to each other. This was not a special occasion. This was Tuesday. The porch worked through 3 functions that operated as one system. First, survival technology. Before air conditioning, the interior of an American home in summer was genuinely unbearable. Families sat outside not because it was pleasant, but because inside was impossible. That necessity created presence, and presence created community. Second, social architecture. The porch sat at the precise intersection of private and public, close enough to feel like home. Open enough to invite interaction. Community happened automatically as a byproduct of simply being there. Third, and this is what most people miss entirely, the porch was a building defense system. Those deep, overhanging roofs intercepted rain before it hit the siding, shielded foundations from pooling water, and kept the structure dry across decades. That 120-year-old farmhouse still standing with original wood siding. The porch is why. These 3 functions were not separate features. They were one integrated system. The standard explanation goes like this. Cars came, suburbs spread, air conditioning arrived, the porch became unnecessary and quietly faded. That explanation is not wrong. But it is dangerously incomplete because the porch did not fade. It was removed as a line item. After World War II, millions of returning soldiers needed homes immediately. Developers moved fast. Fast meant cheap. Cheap meant cutting everything that did not directly generate sale price. Developers, most famously Levitt and Sons in 1947, eliminated rear alleys to cut construction costs. In older neighborhoods, garages sat behind the house. The entire front facade belonged to the porch and the street. Without rear alleys, the garage moved to the front. For the first time in American history, the garage and the porch competed for the same facade. The garage won. Each eliminated porch saved developers between $8,000 and $15,000 per house. Across thousands of homes, the savings were staggering, not because Americans chose garages over porches, because developers removed the rear garage option and the porch lost by default. Air conditioning then provided the cultural cover. Modern homes have central air. Who needs a porch? What that marketing never mentioned was that air conditioning cannot intercept rain. It cannot shield siding. It cannot create the conditions for a neighbor to simply stop and talk. By the 1980s, the snout house had arrived. Homes where the garage protrudes so far forward, it consumes the entire street-facing facade. The front door invisible from the street. The porch reduced to a token platform barely large enough for two people fumbling for keys. The house had stopped facing the street entirely. The community cost is the one people feel most easily. Americans today report fewer close friends than any previous generation. Loneliness is now a declared public health epidemic. Neighbors who have lived side by side for years do not know each other's names. This is not weakness. This is the direct consequence of removing the architectural conditions that once made casual connection inevitable. Without the porch, the transition zone between private and public vanished. Community now requires deliberate effort in a culture that leaves no room for it. But there is a second cost almost nobody discusses: the structural cost. Researchers at Oak Ridge National Laboratory tested two identical wall assemblies through a full year of real weather. One had a 24-inch roof overhang. The other had none. The unprotected wall absorbed 30% more moisture by mass. Oriented strand board, the standard wall sheathing in new American homes, is strong when dry, but at 20% moisture content, it loses roughly half its structural strength rapidly and not fully reversibly. Remove the porch overhang. Use fast-grown softwood framing. Sheath the walls in moisture-sensitive board. Leave everything exposed to weather. The result, as one building scientist put it, is not a house. It is a repair schedule. Remediating a single moisture-damaged wall costs between $4,000 and $12,000. The building code requires no front overhang. The builder moves on. The homeowner inherits the consequences. Here is what becomes clear when you hold all three parts together. The porch was a system that solved three problems at once: thermal comfort that kept people outside, social positioning that made connection effortless, and structural protection that kept homes standing across generations. When developers removed it as a cost-cutting measure, they dismantled that entire system in a single financial decision made by people who would never live in the result. The community loss, the structural damage, the epidemic of neighborhood loneliness, these are not separate problems. They are three consequences of the same moment. The moment the porch was removed, the garage moved forward, and the house turned its back on the street. Most Americans have spent their entire lives living inside that consequence without ever knowing what caused it. Now, here is the question worth sitting with. If the porch was removed, not because people stopped wanting community, but because a developer found it cheaper to build without it, what else in modern American neighborhoods was shaped the same way? If your street today is nothing but garage doors and silence, tell me in the comments. Do your neighbors actually know your name? One answer is enough. Those comments shape exactly what this channel covers next. If this video gave you a new way of seeing something you pass every day, subscribing takes 1 second and makes sure the next one reaches you.